Sister?
And here is
Yes, sister. Sister, you are being invited for the welcome address for the guest. Yes, sister, please.
have joined for
Honorable Director Simon Raj, today's resource person, so Anand, and the respected faculties and students. I didn't take not much time. Most welcome, Anand. Now you are a member of the Spips family, no? Last time also you take. So most heartily welcome to this session. May God bless you. And my dear students also, maximum utilize. He's a resource person, nice person. So you can also ask him and utilize him and maximum utilize his talk also. So God bless you all. Once again, Anand, I welcome, hearty welcome to this program. God bless you.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you, sister.
Thank you very much. Now for the introduction of a resource person, for our dear Sangam sir, I would like to invite Anshika. Anshika, please.
Good morning. Once again, I heartily welcome Sangameshwar Manikanam Iyer, a well-known communicator based in Denver, Colorado, with over 25 years of experience. Sangam sir is keen in giving back to the community and is an active participant in many events. He advises community members from kids to seniors on the various special aspects and writes various blogs and articles on current affairs and that are relevant. Sangam's areas of interest and expertise include communication skills, public speaking, leadership, and motivation. His varied interests include photography, painting, astronomy, and Vedic mathematics. He is also a trained Carnatic musician and plays instruments like violin, keyboard, and kazoo. He also does occasional stand-up comedy and DJing. In the past, he has hosted various talk shows on many different radio stations and was featured on various television and radio interviews across USA, Canada, India, and UAE. We are extremely delightful to have such a personality amongst us today to share his views and rich knowledge with us. So I heartily invite Sangam sir for his session. Sangam sir, please.
Yeah, so I have a request. Can Anshika tell my name correctly once?
Sangameshwaram Manikayam Iyer.
Okay, so you got almost 90% right. So it's always a best practice just to make sure that when you're introducing someone, it's better to tell their name correctly. So since this session is about communication, it's always important because when you get in, like when you're outside your college and then you get into the corporate world or you get into your first job and then your career, you start building your career. When you address someone by saying their name in a not so correct way, can lead into miscommunications. So you have to just keep those things in mind.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, I'm not finding fault. I'm just saying that it's always better. Like when I get a chance to introduce someone for a session, I actually go through the biodata or go through their profile multiple times and then try to make sure that I say their name correctly. Because for Indians, like we are okay, like we don't have a problem. But if it was a different dignitary, and then you have to just keep those things in mind. So that's just a helpful tip.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Good. So I thought when I heard the introduction, I thought today's session is also going to be cyber related. But today's session is about having it on the communication skills. So communication skills is most important when you get into your job, interpersonal communications, or having a public speaking kind of stuff. So when you have a public speaking kind of thing, not all people are designed, or not all people are created equal. So not all people are tuned or wired in the brain to stand in front of an audience and then deliver a lecture or deliver a speech. But these are some of those basic things or subtle points which you have to keep in mind, because when you start like your job, or when you start building up your career, this is going to be an important thing, because if you cannot communicate well, if you cannot communicate effectively, if you cannot communicate efficiently, there is a difference between effective communication and efficient communication. Getting the message across to the other person and then getting the desired result from that communication, from conveying the ideas or conveying the scope of a specific project which you're working as part of your job and stuff like that. And this is going to help definitely in your interpersonal communication skills as well. So without further ado, let's jump into the topic. Okay. You can see the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, cool. Okay, so it's not. You can see it full screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay, yeah. So today's topic is about communicate. So how to better communicate and win in your interpersonal communication, interpersonal interactions, or one-to-many or one-on-one kind of stuff. So this is going to be of key concern or key topic area, because when you start working, like it's a common thing that people say, like worldwide, they attribute it saying that Indians, like, we don't know how to communicate, language is a barrier for us and stuff like that. So we keep hearing a lot of these things. People may be really bright academically, they know the subject, but they can't communicate it well with their team members or with the client. If you're working for a company and then you're doing a project, you're working for another client, you can't communicate properly. So all these things. So the basic thing is language is just a medium, but how to communicate in an interpersonal communication or one-to-many email communication. So communication has many channels, like you have verbal, non-verbal, as well as written communication. So there are different types of that. So now let's see the introduction. What exactly is effective communication? What are the types of communication? The commandments of communication, the C's of communication. There are 5 or 6 C's. How to get rid of the fear of speaking, and then we have a question time. Okay. Okay, so that is it. And now let's see. So do ask a question when you have one, and feel free to share an illustration, request an example if a point is not clear for you. So you have to keep those things in mind. And it's pretty much straightforward. Like there are not many participants who are in Zoom, but most of them are on the YouTube. But let's keep the discussion going on. So what you should do for specific or effective participation for any program, like effective participation in any seminar or session or a training program. And so the basic things are, like, you should always search for ways in which you can apply a general principle or idea to your work. So the basic principle is use a common language when you're trying to communicate. So you try to apply that in your day-to-day interactions, in your communications and stuff like that. and think of different ways in which you can pass on ideas to others. So these things are also important, because the way in which you can think of multiple different ways wherein which you can pass on ideas. So when I say like how to pass on ideas, one of those examples is like I use a lot of illustrations. Like I use a whiteboard, so I use an iPad for nowadays, like most of us are working remotely or studying remotely. So we use this different communication mechanisms for communicating with the students, or communication to a different group of people as such. So you can use different ways in which you can do. So for illustration purposes, like if you are pretty much good in using a whiteboard or a piece of paper to draw a specific concept and then try to communicate it, you can always use that to pass ideas to others as well. So some of the suggestions for effective participation for any session is that don't try to develop an extreme problem just to prove that the speaker does not have all the answers. The speaker in this case is me, so the speaker doesn't, like I don't have answers for each and every question. I will try to address it, but I may not have answers for each and every question. So don't try that problem, because it's like, we call it as a rabbit hole kind of a situation where we want to prove that the speaker does not know a specific area. We may not, right? So it's better to be open and candid and straightforward, and when you start the session itself, saying that I may not have answers for each and every question. Now, the other thing which you should not do for ineffective participation, or like how you can have an effective participation, is that you should never close your mind. You should never shut down your mind saying that, yeah, all these things are fine in theory, but is this possible to apply it in a practical way? So you have to keep those things in mind, that don't get into that kind of a mind block or a mental block saying that, like, in theory everything is okay, but in practical it won't work. So don't get into that kind of thing. Have an open mind. So having an open mind is always going to help you when you start your job, when you start to building your career, when you start working together as a team, because human beings, like we are social animals. So we have to be part of a team, and we cannot work in isolation as an individual person. So we have to work as a team. We have to work together as a team. So team dynamics and all those things will play a major role in all of our careers. Now let's see what exactly is communication. So communication is derived from the Latin word called communis, which means common. And it means that communication is the transfer of commonly meaningful information. So what exactly is an effective communication? So effective communication is the basis of today's session, like how we can get the desired result. So desired result is like, let's say you are a parent, and you are telling your kid to go and get a specific maybe today's newspaper. Okay, so you're telling the kid saying that, hey, go and get today's newspaper. So the kid goes and gets you the newspaper. So there are two levels of communication there. So the first level is an efficient communication. Efficient communication means that the recipient or the receiver, in this case the kid, listens to what you say, and the kid understands it. So that is an efficient communication. Now, an effective communication is, the basic purpose of the communication was to get the kid to go and get the newspaper and come back. So that was the desired result out of that. So to get the desired result out of that, you can use a combination of words, a combination of tones and other things. So there are different topics in that. So one of those topics in communication or interpersonal interactions is called transaction analysis. So you can take a quick search on internet to find out what exactly transaction analysis means. So I have not included transaction analysis as part of today's discussion, because a transaction analysis in itself is a separate topic. So it deals with 3 levels of ego states, like parent, adult, and child ego stage for each individuals. And each individuals will have different sub individuals within their personality as such. So you have to keep those things in mind. So how to get the desired result is a key component of having an effective communication. So in this case, the example of the parent telling the kid to go and get today's newspaper, it was efficient because the kid got the message correctly. But getting the desired result is like getting the kid to go and get the paper and then come back and give it to you. So that is an effective communication. So the basis is like how we can get the desired result. So there are different types of communication. As I mentioned, like you have formal communication types, you have informal communication types. So for within formal itself, you have oral communication as well as written communication. So formal communication is like if there is an announcement which has to be made in the college or in the institute, that's an oral communication. And written communication is there is a circular which principal is going to get it ready and then sign it and display it in the notice board or display it in the, or distribute in all the classes. So that is the written communication. So that's a formal way of communication. And there is an informal type of communication. So we saw formal communication, the examples of that. And then we saw the informal communication. So the informal communication, there are three major categories. One is grapevine. So grapevine is one of the teachers or one of the faculty members sharing some information about maybe a curriculum change or maybe the test which is going to happen in the next 2 weeks kind of stuff. So those are some of the informal things. There will not be any formal communication, but it will be the grapevine. The other informal communication type is rumors. So rumors could be like anything. So I don't want to go into the details, but rumors are an informal communication. And then body language. So body language itself is a specific set of signs. So there are different there are specific institutes who actually specialize on body language, how to use that for in interrogation techniques. So that is mostly used by law enforcement agencies or different kinds of profiling things. Like you will be seeing it on like many series in Netflix as well as in different movies as well, how to analyze a specific body language and see what exactly the informal communication or the nonverbal cues which that person is sending out with a lot of bodily movements, like maybe like a twitch in the eye or like touching the tip of the nose when they are speaking, or constantly rubbing both hands or like using the hands like this, or using the palm in a inverted way as well. So there are different ways and means in which the body language, different messages will be communicated as part of that. So those things are mostly under informal communication. So we saw the types of communication, formal as well as informal. So there are specific set of commandments in communication. So there are no hard and fast rules for this. So some of the key commandments of communications are like seek to clarify your ideas before communicating. So even before you start to communicate, the main objective is to clarify your ideas before even you start communication. So the communication should start only after you get a clarity about what exactly the idea you're going to communicate. And examine the true purpose of each communication. So that is another commandment. The true purpose for each communication, like what exactly are we going to say? Now, the advantage of human brains is like all these things gets into a parallel processing. So we don't need to go through in a sequential way. So the moment you get into these things, like have a clarity in your idea. So that's why you will see excellent public speakers are pretty much clear in their speech or pretty much clear in communicating their ideas. So they know what they have to clarify. They know what they are trying to communicate. They know the true purpose of each of their sentences or the words which they are communicating. So in the case of specific like great orators or like great public speakers, they may be getting someone else to write the speeches for them. But even then, they are actually reading that and they know how exactly it has been written and how exactly they need to communicate with that. The other component or the other area of a communication commandment is like you can consult others when appropriate in planning communication and be meaningful while you are trying to communicate or while you are communicating. So you should keep those things in mind. And you should always keep in mind to follow up your communication. So that's one of the traits which most of the faculty members might be having, like after each of those concepts or a specific area, when they handle it in the class, they would definitely do the follow-up saying that, did you understand? Did the students get it or not? So that's a way of following up your communication as well. And be sure to action support your communication. So for a good communication, you should always make sure that the actions support the communication. So one of those examples is like you are addressing a class and then you're saying that all of you please stand up and all of you please sit down. So the actions has to support the communication. So you should give confidence like this, not like you should have confidence. So all those things has to be kept in mind. So the action should always support the communication for an effective communication. And last but not least, seek not only to be understood, but to understand as well. Be a good listener. So the more you listen to the other party, like the recipient or the receiver, that is when you will know that what exactly are. It's a closed loop mechanism, like we call it as a closed loop feedback. A closed loop feedback is you communicate with the person and then you get their feedback saying that, did you understand it? What exactly you would like to know? So you are actually listening to them as well. So you speak, you communicate, you listen, you process the information, and then you clarify or then you modify your communication and stuff like that. But the basic rule is like try to be a good listener as well, because when you start working, one of those training programs which many organizations are putting is like, now in the past 10-15 years, is how to be a good listener. Let's say you are going to meet a customer. You are working in a company. Let's say you are working in a car dealership as a salesman or a sales girl, one of the examples, and you're trying to go and sell it to a customer. So you should always try to understand their requirements. So a person who is coming into the car showroom, they would specify, okay, this is my budget, these are the features which I am looking at and stuff like that. So we have seen this kind of situations in our daily lives. Like when we go into a car showroom, sometimes we would see that the salesperson, either a boy or a girl, would try to come in and try to say like A to Z of all the features of that specific model, make and model of the car. But it may not make any sense unless you tell them this is exactly my requirement. Like one of those examples is like the salesperson is coming up to you, like you are getting into the car showroom, and the salesperson is running to you and then saying that, oh, this is an SUV, 7 people can sit in this, and all those big things, like it has around 200 bhp engine power and all those things. But your requirement may be totally different. Your requirement may be you want a 4-seater or a 5-seater car, a small compact car which has good mileage and stuff like that. So you may not be so happy with the way in which they were communicating, like they are not even listening to what exactly your requirement is. So you have to keep those things in mind. So that is one of the examples. So most organizations are now training their employees to be a good listener as well, because you should know how to communicate, but you should also be a good listener. You should understand their requirements and then customize your messaging to suit the requirements. So that is the basis of getting that effective communication going as part of the two-way communication, right? So if the client is not responding back, then that communication is effective is totally out of question. It will not be efficient also, because if the other person is not listening, then the communication is not efficient. So you will not even go beyond stage 1. Effective is actually stage 2. So getting the desired result is actually stage 2. So how to be heard. So you should also show that you are attentive, you are also listening to the other party as well. So 5 C's of communications are clarity, completeness, conciseness, correctness, and courtesy. So the bases are pretty much clear, like it should have the clarity. You should be clear about what you're communicating and have that clarity as part of the communication mechanism. It should be complete. I want to go there. For what purpose? So if you are saying I want to go there, but without telling the purpose, there is no completeness. So you need to have that completeness in your communication. Be concise in what you have to communicate. So you have to be concise. No point in saying pages of information and the other party is saying what exactly you are saying. So you should have to have that conciseness as part of that. So that is another C of communication. Correctness. So if you are saying something, you need to be having that kind of clarity, conciseness, and correctness as part of that. So the correctness is also one of the C's of communication. And courtesy. Have the basic courtesy in communicating, saying that did you understand what I said, rather than saying, hey, did you get it? So that is totally different. So the tonal variation, as well as the pitch and frequency at which certain specific words or specific sentences are spoken can also be totally different than what you meant. So you need to have that basic courtesy in your communication as well. So the 5 C's of communications are clarity, completeness, conciseness, correctness, and courtesy. Skill versus knowledge, it's a no-brainer, because you would get all the knowledge from the books. You would get all the knowledge from online. You would get all the knowledge from your teachers, from your faculty members. But getting that skill is totally different. So it is something similar to having a raw egg and a boiled egg kind of difference. So there is a big difference between these two. One is much more fluid. The other one is pretty much hard, rigid, because skill will actually will make sure that whatever knowledge you have has to match and has to meet somewhere. Like skill and knowledge are like 2 railway tracks. So in real life, the railway tracks never meet unless there are 2 railway tracks which are going to cross. So otherwise, these are 2 parallel lines. But in real life, skill and knowledge will actually intersect at some point of time. That is where you actually build up your experience. So that experience comes as part of like how to translate your knowledge, what you have acquired. So the knowledge which you have acquired through books, through reading, through your classes, through online, all those things are actually different pockets of knowledge. How to translate that into a real life skill, or how to translate that into a day-to-day skill which you can use it for enhancing your experience. So those things will actually play a major role in how to apply or how to convert the knowledge and how to get that skill into that. So let's say knowledge, language knowledge, your language skills, like your vocabulary and all those things might be world class, but the skill will play a major role in letting you choose what kind of words should be used for what kind of occasions. So that makes it totally different. So the knowledge without skill is of no use. So the basic objective is acquire as much knowledge as possible, but the skill is something what comes out of practice. So practice, practice, practice. You will see in one of those informative videos. I've included a couple of informative videos in the session. So you would see that how practice makes it totally different. The essentials of effective communication, starting with one's own self. So one's own self is introspection or doing a self-analysis. So you should understand yourself. So when you say understand yourself, there are different, you would see different quadrants for personality analysis. So like strength, it's called as SWOT techniques, your strength, weakness, opportunities, and threat. So it all starts with a self-analysis where you write down your own strengths, your weakness, opportunities, and threats. And there is no harm in consulting your close friends or your family members, or even your faculty members asking about like, hey, I would like to do a self-analysis. So would you help me in correcting anything or in assessing it properly? So they can help you with that. Or if you don't want to help, you can do all these things on your own as well. So you can understand yourself. Self-analysis. So self-analysis is going to play a major role in multiple things. One is definitely it will tell you about your strengths, your weakness. So if you know about your strengths, you know how to play a game. Like when I say game, you know how to maximize the potential or the strength, your strength, and use it in your advantage, right? So if you're pretty much, if your strength is vocabulary, you can change words and then use all those things. So great orators, you would see them as using multiple different kinds of words in left, right, and center, and makes it totally different. And you look like every speech when you listen, you think they are saying something different, but the basic thing is they might be using different sets of words and then play with that. So you have to keep those things in mind. And weakness, let's say your language skills is not that much great on a specific language or a specific topic. Either try to avoid that or try to mask it and then slightly underplay your weakness and slightly overexpose your strengths. So that is one of those techniques which you can use. Opportunities and threats is like analyzing like what are your opportunities, where all there is a scope for improvement. You can do all those things. And then threats is about what could be a threat for you as a person. So the basic thing is you should do a self-analysis, and the starting point, we call it as a baselining. So the baselining is where you do a self-analysis and you know where you want to correct and where you want to improve, where you want to augment, and all those things will help you in doing that. Understanding your colleagues, like when you start working, like the other essential of effective communication is understanding your colleague. And if you know someone is weak in a specific area, like you start working, and then one of your colleague is not great in maybe a coding language or a programming language, you could actually help them, and then you can understand their strengths, weakness, and all those things, and you can actually complement them and then give them motivation and all those things. And then you can make sure that whenever you are communicating with them, you can convert an efficient communication into an effective communication. So you have to keep those things in mind. And whenever you are communicating, understand the message. So the message has two parts, like the purpose and the content. So the purpose is like for what purpose you are communicating, and then the content is like how do you structure those words in that specific sentence when you are communicating to the other person. Now all these things are applicable to two types of communications which we saw, the formal as well as the informal communication. So it is the same for all these things. Like the only exception there is the body language. So the body language comes involuntary, right? Even without knowing, like we may not be aware about the body sending out non-verbal cues. So these things are not in our control. So you have to keep those things in mind. So except body language, which is an informal communication, which is a non-verbal cue, which is an involuntary way of communication, rest of the things you can definitely have a purpose and content. So just because when you're touching your hair or your head, that shows that you are confident, you don't need to artificially say that, do that, saying that every time when you're answering a question, like maybe in a group, when you start working, you don't need to touch your head just to show that you are confident. So because that is involuntary, right? It's not in our control. So these things are beyond the control. So apart from that, once you understand the message, like the purpose and content. Okay, so the other thing is keep an open mind. So an open mind is like a bidirectional highway where you get traffic going out and then traffic coming in. So you need to have an open mind for letting the ideas out and then getting some new ideas in. So there is no point in closing your mind saying that I don't need ideas. I am full of ideas. Let me start giving ideas, or let me start giving gyan to others. It doesn't make sense. So you need to have this in a balanced way. So you need to have an open mind. And last but not least, as I mentioned, is the basic thing. Like now most organizations are having specific training sessions on that. It's called the art of listening, because you need to understand, you need to listen to that before you start communicating. So you need to keep. Yeah, I'm just looking at the chat window as well. Thanks. So the basic thing of now we are moving into speaking and public speaking. So how to get rid the fear of speaking is like know the material well, be an expert. So if you are not an expert and you are asked to be a speaker on a specific topic, do research, do a lot of reading to understand what exactly this topic is about. So once you have an understanding about the topic, that is when you have the confidence to talk about that specific topic. So you need to be very clear about, because all these things goes back to the 5 C's of communication, like conciseness, clarity, completeness, courtesy, and all those things, right? So you need to keep these things in mind, because you should know the material well, because you need to be an expert to know that. But here also there is a caveat, which I said, that the speaker may not know each and every information for the session. So for information which you don't have answer, you can be polite and say that, yes, I don't have answers for that, but let me get back to you with some answers. Once I get information about that, I can share that. This is where the word, the courtesy, the 5th C of communication, is going to play a major role, because the courtesy will make sure that the listeners would like to hear you again and again, because they know if you don't know a specific thing, you would definitely do some research and get back to them with a proper answer for that. The other option is to get rid the fear of speaking is use involvement techniques. If the same session, if I was doing it live in your institute, my approach would have been totally different. Like get involvement session, get involvement techniques like participation, like getting some volunteers from the audience to come and help me for a specific set of exercise, like how we can get those things. So the participation makes it totally different, like when you are actually speaking. So you get more people as part of your team. So that also will get rid the fear of speaking in front of a group as well. So that is another technique which we can definitely use. So the 2 things is know the material well. You have to be doing enough research on the specific topic what you are going to speak about, and then have a lot of different types of involvement techniques, like having specific tasks, having specific set of exercise for specific set of groups and all those things. Get volunteers from the audience to help you with that. So that actually eases out the tension, eases out the stress for you when you're actually about to get into the details of having a discussion with a group. So you should keep all those things in mind. And how to, the other thing is use your own style and words, be natural. So this is one of those examples, because when you start working, one of the things what you would be seeing quite frequently or often is that you might be getting PowerPoint slides, you might be getting Google slides or Keynote and all those things someone else has made, right? So when you are actually going to present a content which was created by someone else, it is totally different, because you can't do justice to that. So the good thing is use your own style, your own words, be natural. Like I'm not a natural born speaker. It comes as part of training, it comes as part of practice, and then that's how things are being done. So there has been some occasions in my career, like 25 years back, like when I started, like I was asked to present the content created by someone else. So the first time when I did it, like it was so difficult. It's like you're trying to wear someone else's dress and you can't fit into that. So it's a problem, like you get that suffocation and stuff like that. And then I understood it is not a problem. Let the content be created by anyone, but you can customize it. So that is the basis of that. So when you are speaking, when you are presenting anything, like as part of your work, career, whatever be the topic, use your own style and words. So be natural. So if you are not natural, if you are trying to use someone else's words and phrases and stuff like that, it would definitely be coming out, and then it would definitely make it so obvious that it may not have that kind of natural progression from one topic into another. So you have to keep that in mind. So the basic thing is, whoever may be the person has created the content, always try to customize that. So keep those things in mind. Let's see this.
Mariana.
Sí, la rubia de tus sueños, Mariana. La rubia de tus sueños, Mariana, con estos ojos azules impresionantes. Porque son marrones. La rubia de tus sueños, Mariana, con este lunarcito más lindo que el de Cindy Crawford. Pero que no existe. Y además, ¿qué decís? ¿Querés seguir con esta relación?
So always try to be natural, because otherwise it becomes so artificial. So you have to keep those things in mind. That commercial was just an example of how to be natural. So it always makes sense, like eases out the stress and then tension, so that you can be in your natural self when you're actually speaking or communicating or delivering a session. And other thing to keep in mind is 3 P's of speaking, like be it public speaking or like a small group speaking or one-on-one discussion happening. It's practice, practice, and practice. So the practice always makes it totally different. And without practice, there is nothing. Like when I started my career, I used to practice presentations and all those things standing in front of the mirror. That is the way in which you can clearly see like how you are communicating and stuff like that. So nothing can actually replace the element of practice in your speaking sessions and all those things. So always try to practice. You can practice with your family members. You can practice in your college in small groups and stuff like that. This is going to be a key component in your perfection or into getting into the next level of having that kind of confidence. How can you be a confident speaker?
How'd you learn to pour like that? It was nothing.
Put on side, no good. Put on center, the release combination and aroma. Again! Again! Again!
Pour down center.
So practice, practice, practice. So if you don't have anyone behind you, like any of the, it could be your friends, it could be your family members, it could be the faculty members. And always try to be making sure that don't be overconfident when you're presenting anything. So this is the last tip, because you can be confident, but don't be overconfident when you're actually presenting on any topic. So you have to keep this in mind. Just see this.
I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing, you. I believe in miracles. Since you came along, you sexy thing. Where did you come from, baby? How did you know I needed you? give my heart gladly. Yesterday, I was one of the lonely people. Now you're lying close to me, making love to me. I believe in miracles. Kiss me, you sexy.
So the basic thing is don't have overconfidence and don't have that kind of thing like I can talk about anything. Always try to look forward, learning new things in all the sessions, whether you're speaking or whether you're attending that. And then last but not least is don't mislead the audience. If it is not clarified, clarify it to the group. So keep those things in mind. Yeah, so this is the next thing is a game. I don't think it makes any sense because not many participants are attending the session, because this is mostly used when we have an in-person session, because we have this groups where we actually talk about that and then sessions like that. So yeah, so that's it. Now let me just stop sharing and then let's see.
Thank you, Sangam sir. That was wonderful of you. And as your name reflect, confluence, that is Sangam. So it's a confluence of knowledge, skills, experience, art, and expertise. We always find ourselves more enriched after attending our sessions. We really hope that our college SPIPs will be having much more such sessions of yours. Now for the formal vote of thanks, I would like to invite Floral. Floral, please.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone. It's my privilege to have been asked to propose vote of thanks for this webinar. Let me first of all start by giving glory to the Almighty God for making today's talk as a resounding success. First and foremost, I would like to thank our special guest, Mr. Sangam sir, who despite his busy schedule has found time to grace this talk with his enlightening words on effective communication skills in everyday life. I am really grateful to our Honorable Director for allowing us to organize this grateful upgrading session. He has been pioneer in making all efforts for giving best to the SPIPs. I owe my special gratitude to our respected principal for bestowing the opportunity to listen to a person of international repute. Thank you, sister, for getting us connected to Mr. Iyer. It is through your cherished relationship with Sir that he agreed to join with us. I am really thankful to our HOD, Dr. Goldie Zaki, Webinar Coordinator, Professor Ashay Joshi, Professor Ankur Sodani, Professor Vidhi Paryani, and Dr. Suvarna Lapalikar for overall coordination, and all the devoted faculty members of Department of Commerce for their untiring efforts. Last but not the least, I am really thankful to all the participants for their overwhelming response and keen engagement throughout the session. Really thankful to you all for being with us this morning. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you, Sangam sir. Thanks to all the faculties. Thanks to respected principal. With the permission of sister principal, I take this opportunity to end this session. Thanks all.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless you. A happy Christmas and New Year also. Okay?
Yeah,
Thank
Merry
you.
Christmas and a Happy New Year to all of you. Thanks for having me once again and giving this opportunity to share some of my, I won't say knowledge, but some of the information which I have captured.
Thank you, sir. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you too. Thank you.
Anyway,
Thanks all.
You are a member of the family, so don't worry. Come.
Yeah, thank you all. Good night. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you, sir.